It is week number 2, and here is the Reverend James Hill with your sermon and message for the week. He will be back on Wednesday. You can share your favorite memes with him by email, and he will be sharing his favorite memes with you this Wednesday. Okay, go ahead, Rev.
Good morning, everybody. It's Reverend Jim. I want to comment, first of all, that we're going to get through this. And it's been difficult. I've been watching TV a lot. There's a lot of commentaries, a lot of common sense things. The main thing is to stay away from other people and stay in your house if you can. I miss all of you, and I know we miss each other, and we miss the worship experience, but that's what we have to accept at this moment in time. Jesus leaves the 12 apostles to pray in the story that I'm going to be sharing with you today. And in his leaving, he wants to be alone for a while. He wants to have some solitary time, some time to reflect about what is happening in his life at this time. And it's a moment for him to reflect and to look inward. Maybe that's some good advice for us, that this time off that we have, this isolation, this being stuck at home, etc., can be used as a time to reflect about our lives and about our living, our values, and our meaning. If Jesus needed a time of prayer and silence, I believe so do we. He has already come through some very difficult challenges in his life, and there are more coming up in his near future. He bids the apostles goodbye, and they are to go across into the Sea of Galilee and do some fishing. And he wishes them well as they leave port. Some features of the Sea of Galilee that you may not know about: it's a freshwater lake in Israel, the lowest freshwater lake in the world. It's 13 miles long, it's about 8.10 miles wide, 141 deep, and it has a collection of great fish, particularly walleye, for those of you who like walleye. Anyhow, it's about 64 square miles big in its totality. It's a beautiful lake, but it's also a very violent lake. It can create storms in a very, very short period of time, and very deep storms, very violent storms. So anyhow, it truly is a story about stepping out into the unknown and the quite vulnerable. A grand story about faith, a grand story about trust, and a grand story about hope. From the Bible, I'd like to share that story with you this morning. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him on the other side of the Lake of Galilee, while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was ahead and already in considerable trouble. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and they cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come then," said Jesus. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind and felt the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save us all." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Jesus saw from the distance a need for help. He could understand and feel and comprehend their paralyzing fear. If you've ever been in a boat in a storm, you can relate to this story very easily. Jesus calls into question their doubt and their trust of him. He reminds them that he protects and will always protect. I can relate to this story in a very personal way. Years ago, Sandy and I and our two daughters, who were at that time 12 and 10, used to go up north, and we still do go up into the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And there's a beautiful lake up there called Lake Manistique. And we rented a boat, and the lake has a cloverleaf structure. There's 4 independent bays, and it's a fairly deep lake and a very, very beautiful fishing lake. So we went out in our boat, and we're going out into sea about a mile out, and there's other boats coming in, rather string of them, if you will, and they're waving at us. And so we waved back, "Hi, how are you?" And I thought, wow, what friendly people. And we kept going out, and when we made a turn in the bay, all of a sudden we had 5-foot waves. What the fishermen were doing was telling us to go back, not hi, but go back. And we had a scary 15-20 minutes of trying to turn that little fishing boat around in these high waves. And we were really quite frightened, to tell you the truth. I can relate to this story because I thought we were going to get swamped at any minute. But anyhow, Jesus calms the Galilean sea down. He is calmly taking all the raging seas and bringing them to a halt. He is overcoming the chaos and the disorder and the fear. The power of Jesus extends not only to sin and sickness, but also to the forces of nature. He can truly change what's happening around us. Don't be tempted like Peter to give way to fear and doubt. We are called to persist in our understanding of our faith and our love of God and our trust in Jesus. The present tumult that we're going through as a world will cease. All of our leaders have been saying that for days. Doctors have been saying that this is a temporary condition and things will return, maybe not to normal, but things will return to a way of living that makes sense and meaning and has depth. As the great theologian Jürgen Moltmann reflects in his book, Theology of Hope, Christianity is hope, forward-looking and forward-moving. Faith is trusting in the dawn of an expected new day. Faith is trusting in the dawn of an expected new day. Let us pray. Gracious God, we look forward to that expected new day with faith in our hearts and trust in you, just as Jesus calmed the sea for our apostles. So he calms the tumult and the sea of our unhappiness and fear. Amen.